Ooh. Cheers. No cheers to you, you're being annoying. Hi everybody. Awesome. Hi everybody. Welcome to all the ghouls, goblins, gremlins, gas, and everybody in between. I'd like to thank you for coming to my Halloween party. Tonight we're going to be doing a special Mr. Men reading. It's past my bedtime, but that's okay. I have a cookie and a Fresca, so I'll be fine. It's a good cookie. So, when reflecting upon Halloween for this video, and picking out what reading, also, crab. But crab. Jocelyn, don't you dare jump on the chair. This is kind of my Saint Maud moment, you know? To the none of you who have seen Saint Maud. This is kind of my Saint Maud moment, anyways. Can I do the pose? I don't know the exact pose. It's something like that. Jocelyn, get off. On the ground. And she tries to jump back up immediately. Anywho. When I was reflecting upon Halloween and what reading to do, and reflecting upon the fact that I forgot to order a special book from Amazon in time, I was thinking, what really speaks to this time? Because it's a strange holiday, because it has it all, really. It has fear and evil and harshness, but it also has strangers giving out of the kindness of their own heart and buying candy for other people's children. And, you know, it really just has it all. And, you know, then I was starting to reflect on, Jocelyn, you're ruining my moment. Then I was starting to reflect really onto, hold on. Sorry, the decor wasn't right. Then I was really starting to reflect on what Halloween means to me. And you know, Halloween is really my opportunity to just go wild. Just be a silly little guy. So that's why today we're gonna be reading Mr. Silly. You know, I think it fits. I think it's appropriate. I've wasted enough time. There's a problem, because now I'm going to be eating a cookie and drinking Fresca and having to read this book. Okay. Mr. Silly by Roger Hargreaves. Mr. Silly lives in Nonsense Land, which is a very funny place to live. You see, in Nonsense Land, everything is as silly as it can be. In Nonsense Land, all the trees are red and the grass is blue. Isn't that silly? That's pretty silly to me. I don't know how well you can see the color. Also, I created ambiance by wrapping my light in an orange shirt. So, hopefully there's still enough light for you to see stuff. Well, red trees aren't that silly. Because, like, there's maple trees. I get it that this is British, but I really don't think red's that uncommon of color. Bluegrass, that's a little, but no, well, it's called Kentucky bluegrass, but it's not blue. I digress. In Nonsense Land, dogs wear hats. And do you know how birds fly in Nonsense Land? No, they don't fly forward. They fly backwards. Which is why it is really a very silly place indeed. Which is why Mr. Silly lives there. Mr. Silly, in fact, lives in quite the silliest looking house we've ever seen. Can you imagine living in a house looking like that? This is not feasible. This just isn't feasible, but it's silly. It sure is silly. Backwards flying birds, that's pretty silly. Come on. That's pretty silly. Now this story is all about the Nonsense Cup. I'm pretty sure the Nonsense Cup was in Miss Dottie. Or Ditzy? Ditzy was the localization, wasn't it? I'm showing myself to be a fake fan. Ditzy was definitely the localization. Dottie was the original. I think the Nonsense Cup was in that one too. Anyways, I am digressing. I need to stop digressing. You see, each year a competition is held in Nonsense Land, and the cup is awarded to the person who has the silliest idea of the whole year. Mr. Silly had never won the cup, but each night, lying in his bed, he dreamed about winning it. He realized that he would have to come up with a remarkably silly idea to win the Nonsense Cup. I'm loving this. This is Mr. Silly in bed. What's also silly is that he doesn't have a face. Like, it's implied that this is his nose. Like, the circle's his nose. But what if it's like a Mike Wazowski situation and he just doesn't have a pupil? Now I can't unsee it. But I love this premise. Mr. Silly has a goal, and he is going to strive towards it. Now, I'm kind of low-key hoping that the conflict resolves in, like, a fist fight between Mr. Silly and Mr. Nonsense. But beggars can't be choosers. Mr. Silly pondered over the problem of the Nonsense Cup one morning at breakfast. He was having a cup of coffee with a spoonful of jelly in it. After that, he had a cornflake sandwich. To finish, he had a boiled egg. But being Mr. Silly, he ate the shell too. Isn't that a silly breakfast? That is a pretty silly breakfast. Also, I don't know if that's good for you. Is eating the shell, like, safe? Or is it just bad? Maybe it's safe. It's probably safe. Maybe the people of Mr. Land have, like, specialized digestive tracts for stuff. Anyway. It literally says anyway. This particular breakfast time, Mr. Silly was thinking about the Nonsense Cup. He remembered 2 years ago when Mr. Ridiculous won the cup. He won by wallpapering his house, which sounds very ordinary. But Mr. Ridiculous wallpapered his house on the outside. Now that's quirky. Also, Mr. Ridiculous is not real. He's just not real. Like, Mr. Ridiculous doesn't exist. He doesn't have a book. Ergo, he doesn't matter. Pardon me. Pardon me. Goodness. The burpees are starting. Mr. Silly also remembered last year when Mr. Foolish won the cup. Mr. Foolish, who was Mr. Silly's friend, had won by inventing a car. It was quite a normal car, except for one thing. It had square wheels. Isn't that silly? That's silly. Also, similarly, Mr. Foolish is not real. He doesn't have a book. He is irrelevant. Get him out of here. I am waiting for the grudge match between him and Mr. Nonsense. I am. Mr. Nonsense is real. Anyways. Mr. Silly thought and thought, but it was no good. He couldn't come up with a really silly idea. He even had another cornflake sandwich, but that didn't help either. So, he decided to take a walk. Off he went, leaving his front door open. Isn't that silly? I don't know if that constitutes being silly. I think that's more just reckless and irresponsible, but live your life, pop off. On his walk, Mr. Silly met a chicken wearing rubber boots and carrying an umbrella. Wouldn't it be silly if you didn't wear rubber boots and carry an umbrella? He asked the chicken. Meow, said the chicken. Because animals in Nonsense Land don't make the noises as they do in your country. Your country, they're assuming. Hold on, whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, are we breaking the fourth wall here? Whoa. Whoa. They could have just said other places. Your country? This is interesting. This is an interesting development in the lore. I really do like this picture of the chicken with the umbrella and the rubber boots, though. This is a really nice picture. I like this a lot. I don't know, something about it. There's some je ne sais quoi to it. That just, you know. Did I use je ne sais quoi right? And, you know, in Silly Land, no, sorry, I'm so sorry. It's Nonsense Land, right? Yes. I am very sorry. In Nonsense Land, it would be kind of silly if the chickens didn't wear rubber boots and had umbrellas, because, like, that's kind of their thing. Also, meow. Sonic reference? Is this a Sonic reference? That's crazy. Next, Mr. Silly met a pig wearing trousers and a bowler hat. Wouldn't it be silly if you didn't wear trousers and a bowler hat? He asked the pig. Moo, said the pig. Isn't that silly? Now, the question is it silly? Or is it a matter of perspective? Is there objective silly? Does objective silly exist? Think about that one. Jocelyn, I swear, I don't swear, but so help me. Can you stop? It was right in the middle of his walk that Mr. Silly got his idea. It was a beautifully silly idea. In fact, it was easily the silliest idea he had ever had. He went right into town and bought a can of paint and a big paintbrush. Mr. Silly knew he had to hurry if he was to be ready for the contest the next day. He's hurrying. He's gotta hurry. He simply has to hurry. And you know, I respect a man on a mission. Now, what can he do with a can of paint and a paintbrush that's really silly? Are you gonna jump up on my lap or not, Jocelyn? Now, I really don't know what is so silly that he could do with just a can of paint and a paintbrush, so maybe this is just a jumping off point. But I really need you to just calm down. Anywho. The next day, a huge crowd gathered in the square to see who was going to win the cup. The king of Nonsense Land mounted the special platform and began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said to the crowd, "it is my pleasure to award the Nonsense Cup to the person who has the silliest idea of the year." There's a king of Nonsense Land? Have we been over this already? That Nonsense Land is a monarchy? Did this come up in Dottie? I don't know. But that's cool, I guess. Alrighty. One of the silliest ideas of the year, continued the king, is by Mr. Muddle the farmer. He managed to grow a square apple. That is fun. The crowd clapped as Mr. Muddle held up his square apple for everyone to see. He felt sure he was going to win. However, said the king, we have an even sillier idea. Mr. Muddle's face fell. This is very interesting. For two reasons. One, There is like a Mr. Men, Mr. Muddle. This is not. This is like human Mr. Muddle, but so there's two Mr. Muddles. The second thing that's interesting is there is no other interesting part. You need to calm down if you're gonna be here. She does not understand the etiquette of filming. It was a teapot entered by Mrs. Nincompoop. It was the silliest teapot there ever was. The crowd broke into thunderous applause. Jocelyn, don't bite my arm. I therefore have great pleasure, announced the king, in presenting the nonsense cup to... Just then, he looked up and stopped in astonishment. The king was looking off at the tree in the middle of the square. Attention? Oh my gosh, this is a pretty silly teapot, gotta admit. Like, you're just gonna, like, die if you try to pour tea from it, unless you, like, hold the lid and, like, invert it. Like, that's a really silly teapot. The tree had green leaves. Wait, did I skip a page? No. The tree had green leaves. Bright green leaves. Not red leaves, like all the other trees in Nonsense Land. Green leaves. Who did this? Cried the king. It was me, piped up Mr. Silly. I painted all the leaves green last night when everyone was asleep. Mr. Silly smiled modestly. He knows what he did. He knows what he did. He knows what he's doing. This is... I'm just gonna let the story play itself out, and I'm gonna save my discussion until the end, I think. A green tree, shouted the crowd. How silly. Then the king said, This is the silliest idea I've ever seen. Therefore, I award the nonsense cup to Mr. Silly. The crowd cheered and cheered. Mr. Silly went pink with pride. There he is, going pink. He is not pink, he is still his nice shade of olive green, let's say. But he got the nonsense cup. Literally nowhere to go but up. And a bird, perched high up in the silly green tree, said woof, and flew off, backwards. Finn. You know what? I really liked Mr. Silly. And you know, I like it for two reasons. This time I actually have two reasons. First reason, it's enjoyable. It's silly. It delivers. And the second off, it has a decent... You can dive into it a bit, you know. Everything is a matter of perspective. If you've never seen a green tree's pretty silly to you. But if you've grown up around green trees aren't silly. It's all a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of your own personal experience and what's going on in your head. You know? What previous experiences you have, what memories you have, what you've been exposed to. That shapes your perspective and how you interact with the world. And everyone has a unique one. And, you know, in Nonsense Land, they've got one that's different than ours. And, you know, those are the kind of morals I like to see in my quality entertainment, my quality media. So, thanks to Mr. Silly for being a real one, winning the Nonsense Cup. I look forward to hopefully, like, if I go to like Mr. Funny or Mr. Nonsense. Mr. Nonsense surely has to be in the running for the Nonsense Cup eventually. But anywho. Thank you for joining me on this special Halloween episode of a reading. Not that this is a special. Not that these are episodes. It's Halloween and I'm reading one of these, so I figured I'd wear the crab hat, do my little Saint Maud thing. Jocelyn is really struggling. Do my little Saint Maud thing. Have fun with it, and do some ambient. I don't know. Do some, fun lighting. She's fine. She's just sitting on the chair, and I'm also sitting on the chair. She has plenty of room. She's just screaming for no reason. So, thank you for joining me. Hope you have a fun Halloween. Have a safe Halloween. Jocelyn, is it killing you that you're not the center of attention? Is it eating you away? Hope you have a fun and safe Halloween. Yeah. Thanks for joining me. And, toodles. Au revoir. Bye-bye.